Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the draft. This is going to be game number 2, week number 4, NJIT versus McMaster. My name is Octavian, and I am joined here on the casting desk, the virtual one, because we're not actually physically together, sadly, by Brian Starkey, who's going to be helping me out on the mic with some color casting. The first game went decidedly well for McMaster, who are now 1-0 up in the series. The match started pretty even with 4 or 5 kills going to both sides, but the game did not end that way with a 21-5 scoreline in favor of McMaster. They could, I believe as the kids say, crush it in that first match. But we're going to be going into match 2 now, where McMaster are looking for the clean sweep, and NJIT are looking to not let them find it.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty funny. So we see the two bands that we saw at the end of last game kind of coming out at the beginning of this game with Poppy and Ivern leading the way for us. NJIT not wanting to mess around with that Tom Kinch again. Understandable after we saw how AO and Django just decimated them.
But to some degree, I feel like he didn't decimate them because of the champion pick. You know, he decimated because he played the lane well, he got rolling, and I think we could see AOH Django do that on a similar pick, something like a Nautilus or a Maokai. Admittedly, the Tom Kench into the Maokai matchup did seem to favor Tom Kench in the lane, and that may have had more of an impact than I personally think it did, but I feel like the matchup wasn't what made that. I feel like it was the player that snowballed that lane.
And I have to agree with you. And Han Solo, like you said, Han Solo ganked first. So that definitely helped out a lot because that did give Tom Kinch that 400 gold right off the bat. And that's no matter who you're playing, that's a big help. 400 gold right at the beginning of the game is very very nice.
Well, we've got the last ban coming through in just a moment or two here. It's going to be an Ezreal ban. Okay. I don't know whether or not they just couldn't make up their minds. They were timing down to the last second there, or if the Ezreal ban is actually targeted at Mooster Man. I'm inclined to think the former. Ezreal is not exactly a high priority pick at the moment, but that could honestly bode ill for McMaster if they couldn't make up their minds in that final ban. We'll see what the first pick is here, though, from NJIT.
Yeah, I mean, Kha'Zix and Rengar are both still up, and those are both still very highly contested jungle picks right now. And we saw Han Solo play Kha'Zix at that last game, and he played him very well. I wouldn't say it was a perfect game, but he definitely did a good job on the Kha'Zix for sure.
Which one would you prioritize between the two? Would you go for the Kha'Zix maybe, or I guess the Nautilus potentially, as maybe AOH Django was wanting to go for that pick, and that's a steal away from AO. But if it comes down to the choice between the Rengar and the Kha'Zix, evidently Han Solo thinks Rengar. But which one do you prioritize? Which one do you want to be in that matchup?
I would definitely pick Rengar because Rengar's damage, the majority of Rengar's damage isn't. It's not reliant on the fact that there's no enemy champions around, right?
It's unconditional.
Exactly. There's no damage condition for him to do everything he does. Like he can do more if there's a bush nearby, but he can still be really he can be angry cat if there's no bush. And so the Rengar prioritization, in my opinion, was the right one.
The Nautilus pick as a first pick, though, is still somewhat perplexing to me. The only way I can justify that is that it is a steal away from Django. So they've banned out his Tom Kench. They've taken the Nautilus pick, which is very similar to Tom Kench, maybe something that Django plays a lot of, and now they're not really afraid of a third tank. You know, as Django was just such a carrying force on that tank top lane last game. We're gonna have to see what the next two picks are because picking that Nautilus early gave away both the Malzahar and the Rengar, which are two highly prioritized picks in the current meta.
Yeah, and Sho did play Malzahar last game, but it didn't really go great because Autumn Clouds played Thresh very, very well. His hooks were incredible. I mean, very good play by him.
Well, picking the Kha'Zix into the matchup nonetheless. So in your veteran seasoned opinion as a color caster, we're seeing Hero pick into a losing matchup here actually. But, you know, there's still things that can be done with it. And honestly, Kha'Zix never really even has to fight the Rengar. It could just be lane-focused junglers all the way home. Varus, though, going to be grabbed by Mooster Man, another high-priority pick here. And we're going to see what the next two responses are going to be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what what they decide to pick up, the Troll is actually not an awful pick into Nautilus just because he can drain it down. But the Darius, I think, is actually a little bit more expected, not the Teemo. Um,
I personally like the Trundle quite a bit. It's a little safer than Darius. It brings a little bit more utility to the team. Even if Trundle starts to fall behind, you still have the ability to melt away someone's defenses and land pillars and such. But looks like Django doesn't agree with me as he's going to be going for the Darius pick. If Django has a similar performance to last game, gets that first blood and gets rolling, Darius certainly is able to flex those muscles a little harder.
yeah, and I think that is kind of what he's going for. Is seeing AO's Django on Darius is going to be really exciting. I actually cast a game maybe a week ago, I think. They're all starting to blur together because I've done so many recently. I did cast a Darius game recently, and watching that, I mean, it's very apparent that Darius is strong right now, especially into tanks, because he can deal that true damage off of his ultimate at level 6.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how much armor or how much magic resist you have. It's true damage with a 5-stack passive off of Darius. So
Yeah, and that's going to be enough to rip through even the tankiest of Nautilus. The last two picks to round it out here, I am expecting. I wasn't actually expecting the quirky for Velarota, but I was thinking maybe we'd see a Karma or just some sort of generally lane-oriented range support to try and bully the Jhin back alongside Varus. Corki going to Velarota, though, means that it's not going to be going to Nito, who had a brilliant performance in that last game. A bit of a quieter performance than Django. He wasn't in the enemy backline all the time, drawing a lot of attention and such, but he still ended 4-0-7 or something along those lines. So quite a powerful game from him. He's going to be having to swap to a different matchup, though.
yeah, I'm curious to see what he chooses to play in the mid lane. Like LeBlanc is still up, and LeBlanc is a pretty good pick right now. Very high pressure, very aggressive.
Oh man, I don't know whether or not it's purposeful, but the Aatrox hover is nettling at me at the very least. I'm one of the like 5 people on North America who have Mastery 7 on Aatrox.
Oh God.
I don't like myself at all. No, I love the champion. Seriously, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but I think that Aatrox is an absolutely awesome and wonderful and fun champion, and also not good at all. I hold no illusions about how powerful he is as a champion, but all of that aside, it is Victor picked into the mid lane. Into the matchup into Corki. Corki outranges Victor by a good bit, actually. I that would be my main worry for Nito, but if Nito ever gets close enough, his burst will certainly be sufficient to bring down a Corki.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it boils down to Victor's ability to do wave clear, right? Like,
Yes.
as long as he's safe enough to not get poked down by Velarota, he can at least clear the waves and keep Corki from rotating around the map and causing headaches that way. He may not necessarily get kills right away, but I do expect him to at least be equal in CS and play safe using his little E laser to farm.
All right, well, all of that said and most of it done, we've got a few minutes before we can get into the game. So you folks just sit tight, hold on to your seats, and don't go anywhere. We're going to be back in just a few minutes once we get onto the Rift.
Only $14.99.
Don't miss the call. Download Band. Communication made easy.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips. But I've lost in the moment
right, everybody. As you can see by the sepia tone on your screen, we do have a little bit of a pause to start this game off, but fear not, me and Brian here are going to keep you entertained while we get through the first few moments. Hopefully, the players will be back with us very soon. Probably just a slight technical difficulty, as hey, we're back into it already. I barely even have time to acknowledge the pauses there before it flitters away into the sunset. My name is Octavian. I am joined by Brian Starkey, and we're going to be getting into Game 2 of our series here in Week 4 of CSL Division 1. All of those numbers and letters out of the way, we've got a 5-man stack on the bottom side from NJIT.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. McMaster did put the pings out saying, hey, watch out, they might be coming this way or they might be going that way. Jin is in a bad spot.
Yeah, and Taroxide does have the anchor to toss his way, but it's not quite going to land. And that's just about that. Unless Autumn Clouds picks a play here. I was just sending a few minions their way.
Hey, those void spawnlings, man, they're annoying. Nito getting some really good damage down on to Hero, forcing him back. Darius is going to be able to put a ward out and spot out Hero, probably going to rotate. They're going to see which buff Hero starts at, actually, with those timers that they have for the wards. Actually, it's a very good reactive play based on what they saw coming. Very good reactive play by McMaster based on what they saw out of NJIT. I wouldn't be surprised if Han Solo might try to get a little something spicy here in the bot lane jungle.
Yeah, Autumn Clouds is leading an attempted charge. He's beckoning his team onwards. He's playing very aggressive here up in the forward push, and his team is going to join him. And now they're going to turn the corner. Moosterman is the first to spot the late invade. Show going to be taking some great damage, though, and kiting back through these bushes is dangerous with Han Solo chasing 2 summoners down. And that's already a victory for the side of McMaster. Hero just about steals away his red buff while his team flees away. Still, though, I'd say that is, of course, a victory for McMaster.
Yeah, I think so too, because now it's going to force Hero to maybe go take the Raptors of McMaster and try to counter jungle that way, but Kha'Zix just doesn't have the same type of...
Oh, he's going for the red.
Oh, okay. He's going to go straight for the red. He doesn't have Smite up, so hopefully he'll be able to live through this. I think he should, just based off of his level 2. He should be fine. They are pinging it out. They know he's there. Or they're guessing he's there.
Yeah.
Survives with about 200 health. Very, excuse me, very good decision by Hero to go and take that, actually.
Yeah, and the Blast Cone even is going to provide him a simple and easy way out of the enemy jungle, so not actually set too far behind by the counter-jungling early maneuvers from McMaster. However, the price they do pay on the side of NJIT is those double summoners away from the bottom lane. Meanwhile, Django playing aggressively on the Taroxide. We saw this story take place last game. Django trying to follow with the flash. He's trapped under the turret now. First blood goes to the Nautilus. Thankfully, no assist to Kha'Zix. That's not the start that Darius wants to a lane.
No, that's not good at all. The aggression was actually not too far off, but that was a good dredge line by Taroxide to get away from the spin of AO's Django. I mean, very well done.
And that's going to be really, really rough for Django, who on Darius does need that early lead to get snowballing. I think his window of opportunity has now narrowed considerably. He's going to continue to play aggressively, I'm assuming, in this lane. Just seems to be the way the player and the champion plays out. But if he makes even one more mistake along those sorts of lines, I don't know his way back into it.
Yeah, I don't think so either, especially because Nautilus, Taroxide went back and actually did the smart thing, and
Han Solo was actually second to the gank here, but he may be successful nonetheless, taking advantage of those summoners missing from the bottom lane and claiming a kill into the combat.
It was very, yeah, that was really good. Han Solo coming from the behind the back flank almost to go and get them. Sorry to keep you from casting that fight a little bit.
Oh, you're all good. You're all good. We're a team here, my friend. We're a team here. So I'll follow your lead. Wherever you tango, I will tango right after.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna make a Django joke there for a second.
No, but I should have. See, this is why we're a team. You bring up the bad jokes, I follow up on them.
That's right. I just need someone to set up.
As Taroxide's going for the 1v1 once again, coming out mostly on top here actually, but Django's going to get a bit of healing back, and that dot will do some work, so the trade seems about even.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's where I was talking about the benefit of the Darius passive. Not only does it allow him to do true damage with his dunk, but it also gives him increased attack damage based on the number of stacks he has. And that's it's very good. It's a very good passive to have, especially on an aggressive champion like Darius. And if you're like Django and you play aggressive, it's not bad unless you make an early game mistake, like he did this time.
Yeah, and we'll see exactly how much that mistake costs him as the game moves onwards. At this point, it's really only turned into a second cloth armor for Peroxide, but Darius plays on such a knife's edge of aggression in the early game that may very well make the difference. And it's actually allowed Peroxide to have a lot more breathing room in this lane, as you can tell just by the CS numbers.
Yeah, and I think Django is being very cautious and optimistic about his scenario right now. He's allowing the wave to push towards him, give him more control, decrease the chance that he's going to get yanked. Because since he is far behind and he doesn't have any items to help him survive a 2v1 jungler gank, I think he's making the right choice and kind of dialing down the aggression a little bit and forcing Peroxide to come to him instead of him just walking into Peroxide.
Well, let's take a short break from the top lane, as the directed camera is doing though, and maybe look at some of these other matchups where things are going pretty well for McMaster across the rest of the board. Not by any huge margins just yet, but there are CS leads burgeoning in both mid and bottom lane, a trend which we saw in Game 1 and which may have contributed to the loss, as Nito is in some real trouble around from the top lane. Hero showing up as well. It's a 3v1, and it ends rather predictably.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really easy gank. I'm not sure if Django mentioned that Nautilus wasn't in his lane to his team, but the very surprising top to mid roam is something that I actually don't see that often. So maybe he just wasn't expecting it overall. Very well done. Very good rotation. Hero in the right place at the right time, ready to make that gank happen even more. Very well done.
Ooh, Show takes a lot of damage, but they're turning some good damage back on to Tall White Bro as well. But there's the exhaust on the Mooster Man. He doesn't have his support anymore. And when he does have his support from the mid lane, Villaroda has roamed down to the bottom side and is looking aggressive. But Autumn Clouds actually gets the kill on the Show. Malefic Visions plus a few very stubborn minions claims the life of the Karma.
Yeah, so interesting interaction. I think this is still part of Jin's Q. Yes. So Jin's bouncing grenade, what it does is when it kills a minion, each time it kills a minion, it increases the damage of it by 35%. He killed 2 minions, and then the third bounce actually hit Show, and then Autumn Clouds was able to tick him down with the last 20 health.
Yep.
So the majority of the end damage came from Tall White Bro, and Autumn Clouds just managed to get the pickup.
Oh no, Tall White Bro is caught way out and alone, isolated from Autumn Clouds, and that is exactly what Hero was looking for. Another kill for the Kazakhs, or actually the first kill for the Kazakhs here. Hero continues to chase, but Autumn Cloud's going to be flashing back into the bush, breaks vision and claims a kill, red buff now, as he tries to get his way out of the fight, but he's just caught between a rock and a hard place. Mooster Man has to flash away from Django, who teleported in as well, and it's a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, that was 1 for 2, right?
Oh yeah, 1 for 2. Both bottom laners perished there.
May they rest in peace.
May they rest for about 12 seconds in peace.
Same.
And then be back very, very shortly, because there is more action to be had, more blood to be spilled. The blood sport of League of Legends must continue. We have to entertain the audience.
That's right. So there's a couple of things that happened after that bot lane fight. Rengar went up to the top lane, pushed that lane back into the tower, so that way it will be reset by the time AO's Django gets back there, so he should be safe again in the top lane. Mm-hmm. And he also managed to get a deep ward into the jungle of NJIT. If you see, there's one lone red ward right there. That'll be some good vision for them, so they'll be able to see at least if Kha'Zix decides to roam up that way, and maybe give AO's Django at least a little bit more foreknowledge if he might be getting ganked. And that's something that he kind of needs, because he's 20 CS behind and all he has is an assist. Even after that teleport gank in the bot lane, he actually didn't manage to get the kill for that. It went over to Malzahar again. Autumn Clouds picking up his second kill from that.
And it's really why I was worried about the Darius pick, as opposed perhaps to a Trundle, because if AO's Django just makes that early game slip up, as we saw, diving, giving first blood to Taroxide, anything really along those lines. It doesn't have to be quite that egregious. If there's some sort of stumbling block in the lane, Trundle is just so much more useful when behind than the Darius pick is, even if Darius would be more useful than ahead. And it may have just been a little bit of overconfidence from McMaster. They had such a decisive victory game 1 that they were willing to pick the more dangerous lane, and now they're being punished for it. They're still by a few hundred gold ahead, but nowhere near as dominant this game as they were last.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think a little bit is showing, but I also have to agree with the team comp of NJIT this time around a lot more than I did last time as well. I like the Corki pick a lot more than I like the Django trying to get a little something on Taroxide. Unfortunately, he's got those double shields.
Yeah, it's a real tough fight for Django to take at this point. Is even with the full passive stacked up and an auto attacker 2 to follow, Taroxide barely even gets scratched.
Yeah, I mean, ooh, Han Solo getting a good gank off on Veloroda.
Yeah, at the very least, pulling the exhaust, looking to continue for the kill, but Hero is here. As Nito comes in for the potential finish, but it's a flash away from Corki, and Hero chases the victor off.
Yeah, Hero seems to have Han Solo's number this time. He is everywhere Han Solo is not, but also at the same time, he is everywhere that Han Solo is as well.
He's just everywhere. All the time.
He is omnipresent.
He's been the hero for NJIT in this game.
Oh.
Oh. Oh. That one was
you
way
tricky,
too obvious.
you tricky boy.
That one was way too obvious. Do not encourage me. Django, though, is chasing after Taroxide. The ulti comes down. One more auto to follow, but the minion block keeps him under the turret for another shot. It's a 1-for-1.
So I remember I was playing League of Legends back when they implemented that minion block, and it was so egregious for pros that they actually had to revert the minion changes for a couple weeks until the next patch came out, to where they can make the spacing a little bit better and more understandable when you're playing against it. And even so, still sometimes the minions just get in your way more than you think they should.
Yeah, I don't know. That time it did look relatively reasonable. One way or another, though, Django, I think, is happy to take a 1-for-1 trade, because he just needs some more gold so that he scales up and is a threat to the rest of the map here. Killing Taroxide, not going to be much of a realistic plan anymore. We saw there he got basically the full combo down into Taroxide and a few autos and another Q to boot, and he's still barely claiming the kill. So maybe we see Django take that gold, take the nearly completed Black Cleaver, and move somewhere else in the map with it.
Yeah, I would say he probably stays and farms in the top lane until he gets enough gold for his Black Cleaver, and then maybe use his teleport, have his jungler be like, hey, let's try to force a fight there at the Dragon Pit. I'm sorry, and maybe make something happen there, and we'll see. Django taking a lot of damage.
This is way too much of a fight for Django to take. Half his health gone. The attempts to take Taroxide on in the middle of the minion wave. The Sunfire Cape is completed here. But Django's still going to get some damage down at the very least.
Yeah, and I think Django's doing those trades definitely go a lot more in favor of Nautilus right away, but Django, because of the % health restore off of his Q, he is able to survive at least a little bit longer in those fights, but if he misses it, it's not quite as beneficial.
Yeah, as well as the scaling nature. Darius' damage with that passive. But I don't know if the next fight Django's going to be allowed enough time to scale up, because we see he loses about a third to a half of his health bar before he starts to pull back into the trade. And he's only got a third to a half of his health bar left. He won't have enough time there.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part, right? As Nautilus starts to stack up and get that armor, he has 2 shields.
Oh, man.
He has that shield, and he has the Strength of the Colossus, his Mastery shield.
I'm really not sure about Han Solo's choice of target there. Taroxide is alone, but he's rather taking at this point. A flash away. Han Solo gets an ult. I mean, a summoner for his ult.
Yeah, that actually was really lucky for Taroxide that he didn't land that dredge line, because if he did, he would have gone into the wall directly next to Han Solo. So it's a good thing it didn't hit the wall and he didn't get drugged to it, or else he probably would have been dead there.
Well, McMaster's dual lane are just about able to hold the turret for now, but versus a 4-man unit here, I don't think it's going to sustain for very long. 5-man unit, actually. Autumn Clouds is gone. Did that anchor land? It did not. A flash away. It's all white threat. Meanwhile, top lane, though, the turret will be traded back. But pressure on the bottom side means a potential dragon or a potential second turret. They've only got 2 caster minions, 1 caster minion. They're gone. They've got Nautilus though. Maybe they can take this up.
Yeah, I mean the turret is going to fall. Nautilus too tanky. Having 2 kills in 94 CS, he really does have the gold that he needs to get those tank items. I mean, having that 1 tank item is huge. But it is going to be that McMaster will trade over, so they will stay 2 for 2. And they actually will be ahead in gold, even though they're behind by 2 kills. It's the CS differential in the mid lane mostly, and the jungle that are really making up this gold difference.
And it looks like McMaster are going to turn their attention towards the Rift Herald here. A bit of an underutilized buff, but a powerful one nonetheless. Especially if they can get it onto Django, that might help equalize the disadvantage in the top lane.
Yeah, that'll at least give them a little bit more ability to sit there and feel a little bit more confident being in lane, at least against that Nautilus.
I think it's rather nice for Django, though, that the top lane turret has fallen at this point, though, because he doesn't really need to be top lane anymore. He'd be overextending himself if he went for it. Let's see, Power Soul Flare. Here's the package from Velarota. They're not letting Django get out of this one easily, but the Nether Grasp on the Velarota. There's the Noxian Guillotine as well, and Han Solo claims the kill. Now the Exhaust on the show. A flash forward, but it's going to be countered by the Varus ulti. Hero's top lane, and Han Solo is going dangerously low. Hero's going to flash to finish the kill, get himself a double, and look for maybe the leap here. Nope, it's a piercing arrow from Mooster.
Yeah, and this is the kind of fights that they need, right? Like they
winning ones?
They got onto AO's Django. They only lost Velarota, but it actually it forced Han Solo and Autumn Clouds to be separated from their team because Velarota used the package to burn a line, and you do not want to walk through that. It does way more damage than you think it does.
Well, that's going to result in a turret advantage as well as a gold advantage now for NJIT. Certainly a more favorable situation than last game. Rockside able to tank his way through most of the damage coming his way. Actually gets pretty dangerously close to the 0 hit points. The show is going to get slowed up there. 4th bullet lands. This may very well be the sacrificial karma. Sacrificial karma nonetheless. And it's 1 kill back, but a turret taken in a 1-team fight.
It's alright, that's just good karma for later.
Oh boy. Oh boy. That's my job. Oh, that's my job. Turn those tables back. You put that table back, young man.
So I think we're probably going to see McMaster now rotate towards that dragon, get the Cloud Drake. Not super important. I mean, I definitely would say out of all the Drakes, it's probably the most lackluster. At least for this team comp. In my
opinion. That right there. He can hear you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Cloud Drake. Hit me. Oh, they let it reset though.
Not gonna matter all that much.
I'm sorry.
Not gonna matter all that much in the end.
Yeah, that's right. I remember when Dragon used to give 300 gold. The good old days.
The old days. Good is arguable. There's so much focus on Dragon early on. It was basically whichever team got the Dragon was like 70% favored to win or something crazy. Were the stats towards the end of like season 3. Those days are long past though. We've got a full menagerie of Drakes now, and the Air Drake, as mentioned by my wonderful co-caster here, is usually considered to be the worst of them.
Yeah, considering all it does is a speed boost, it's not super great.
Oh no, Rockside whiffing on the dredge line, but does he really have to fear this? I don't know. Django might go for the dive. Yeah, he does have to fear this. The ticking passive could do the work. 5 stacks of bleed. There it is. Django claims the kill. I had no faith in the Darius.
You gotta believe in the Darius 5-stack passive.
Good lord. Indeed I do. That was quite a lot of damage. And Taroxide, I mean, he was even fearful of it. He was trying to run away, but in the end, one whiffed Q was all it took for Django to claim the kill and keep the push going.
Yeah, and that's actually the Rift Herald buff is pretty nice actually. That was gave him a little bit of a bonus there, at least at the beginning of the fight. So really good for him, able to push down that turret and tie up the gold again, putting them in the lead now. McMaster ahead by about 800 gold, not a whole lot. So we are seeing a much tighter game than we did last time at 20 minutes. At 20 minutes, it was definitely more in the favor of McMaster, and not just by 500 gold.
Oh yeah, definitely. And a lot of it I want to put down to the fact that McMaster this game didn't seem to respect NJIT nearly as much. In the draft, you can see that perhaps in the Darius pick, but in gameplay as well, with the absolute aggression that Django played that early game with, as well as just that fight that they caught out near the Rift Herald. That was just because Django and I believe maybe Autumn Clouds as well, I forget, two members of McMaster were basing just in plain view in the river. They weren't playing carefully enough. They weren't playing cautiously enough, and they've been caught sleeping once or twice.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just maybe a little bit of laziness. Maybe they're, I wouldn't say mentally fatigued, because that last game was by no means a marathon, but it'll be good to see at least these two teams go back and forth on this point. The Rengar pick not working out super well. I mean, he does have 2 kills, but when you're watching him in team fights, he gets on and he does damage, but he's never able to finish the job for some reason. And I'm curious to see if that'll be the case later in the game, because if it is, it's going to spell a lot of problems for McMaster.
Well, we'll see whether or not McMaster can not even really recover this game, as it is quite even. But we'll see whether or not they can put the pedal to the metal and get as far ahead as they were last game. Because really, in the context of this single game, they don't really have to recover. But in the context of the series as a whole, this match is certainly a lot closer than the last one. As Django continues the split push down bottom side, and Han Solo continues his focus on the Turok side here. They've been really, really trying to punish this Nautilus, and it's worked out with mixed results for them.
Yeah, and I think in this case it's going to work out really well. It's going to give them the ability to get this tower pretty safely, because they know that Varus and Karma are both in the top lane, and they really only have to worry about where Kha'Zix is, because they knew Corki was in the mid lane as well. So actually there's a really good rotation by Ao's Django and Han Solo trying to force that in there. It looks like Nautilus does want to try to fight him, but I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't really want to do that.
Secondary turret in mid lane could fall as well, as Django potentially goes for the 1v1 here. There's the ulti, the Noxian Guillotine dropped, and Django's going to be trading 1-for-1 again. Just in time for the rest of his team to rotate down, though, and this inhibitor turret may yet be forfeit. An outer turret falls in the top lane, but that's just not nearly enough to match up against this.
No, it's not, and I think it's gonna be pretty free, especially now that Han Solo is here. They're probably gonna get an inhibitor off of it as well.
Is this a full-on race? I guess not. It's not really a base race, because they're not going to be getting to the Nexus, not by any means, but it's certainly a race of some sort. It's an inhibitor race. Ooh, that's a lot of damage. A lot of Autumn Clouds. But they did send Nito back. Nero's looking to try and pick somebody off here. Yeah, the inhibitor is held off. We're seeing Varus and Karma back away.
Oof. Velorota having to use that QSS. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Velorota still may yet be going down. It's a teleport and a flash from Django. More than happy to use those summoners to continue to press the advantage. And with Karma and Varus being forced off the top lane, that is a definitive victory for McMaster.
Yeah, that was very good. They got the inhibitor. They got a kill out of it, I believe. Aside from Peroxide dying before that fight started, they got a kill. Very well done by McMaster. Their macro gameplay has been very, very good. And it's actually, I was talking about this right before that fight started, is if you look out on the side of NJIT, they actually have 4 QSSs. Han Solo, when you get on Peroxide, though.
Yeah, Han Solo wins this duel out in the long term, but I think Peroxide can back away pretty easily. Oh, no, maybe not. There's a double bullet toss. Gonna be snaring him up, but yeah, Peroxide can saunter away. Meanwhile, near the Baron pit, we have a jockey for control between the two teams.
Yeah, probably just trying to get that vision control, like you were saying. My guess is that Baron is going to be the next contested objective on the map for sure, especially because they're going to have to rely on Nautilus to teleport, because he's going to have to hold off the super minions pushing in that bot lane from that fallen inhib.
Yeah, it's such an advantage over the McMaster in contesting this Baron, because they've got the free pressure bottom side. And really, they just have to find one more opening, and this game could very well crack wide open for them. Django tanking that turret there. They are playing so very aggressively here.
Yeah, that may not necessarily have been what you have wanted to do there.
Still, it's done nonetheless, and they're going to get a bit more damage onto the other turret, the last one remaining. in fact, on the top side. As they'll now rotate towards mid and shove a wave out. Just try and keep general control near the Baron pit.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, look at all the wards that McMaster has out. I mean, like, they have wards all the way through NJIT's topside jungle. They will know if they can try to go for that Baron or not, for sure. I mean, they're doing an excellent job of keeping that warded out and clearing it out, but at the same time, NJIT is putting pressure on them to keep those wards up because they're putting out their own control wards to help deny that vision as well.
I'm interested to see if Han Solo goes for this Ocean Drake here. Committing to that could leave them a little bit open in terms of the Baron, but they do still have decent vision around it. And Han Solo is in fact going to go for that. So
Yeah,
we'll see what
the Ocean Drake is actually really nice when you don't have a lot of sustain on your team.
Pardon me. Still battling with the cold. I'm winning though, don't worry. Han Solo is winning his solo battle here with the dragon. He's going to be Han soloing it out for his team.
No, not again.
Always again. And I actually do want to talk a little bit more about this Rengar. There's some interesting things happening in his inventory. He's not going for the full glass cannon, delete the enemy squishies, carry Rengar. He's actually looking to potentially be building a Sunfire animation here. I suppose he could be going for a Deadman's Plate as well, which would actually be a pretty viable option. Give you that extra blue speed while you're on a hunt and roll the burst damage for your first hit.
Yeah, actually opting to go for the Deadman's Plate there.
Yep. I sort of called it. I hedged my bets. It was a 50-50.
That's actually very true. So, you know, good for you. Good for you. 50-50 is not bad.
No.
Except for lost 50-50, so maybe it's a little bit worse. But so while that was happening, we were discussing Rengar's items. NJIT actually went back and took control of the Baron Pit ward battle, but it looks like now that McMaster's going to come back and do that. We're kind of seeing the control for Baron Pit dance right now until someone messes up and either gives up a pick or falls into a team fight.
I think the longer this lasts, the better for NJIT, because they do have that downward window. They have to wait out that cooldown. But it may not last all that much longer. There's a teleport coming into the mid lane here. Gravity well can be dropped. The teleport, of course, going to be cancelled as a result. And some big cooldowns burned, but nobody going down.
Yeah, and that actually was that was pretty big for the side of McMaster. They were able to get out the cooldown of Karma's Splash and the teleport from Taroxide. So now he has to walk all the way up into the Baron Pit, and he actually might be a little bit late to his party to even help.
Yeah, Baron's going down pretty darn quickly. Hero going to be caught. That is exactly the target you want to bring down, but he doesn't manage to leap away. Han Solo going to be leaping back to follow him, though. He loses more than half his health, and he has to flash out of that fight. And this is very messy for both sides here. Not seeing ULoL, not nearly enough to bring down Hero. Meanwhile, Taroxide doing some work in the backside. Tall White Bro having to kite back away from this tank and just not really able to sustain through the fight. Baron is held off, and we might even see some more kills get cleaned up here. Nice use of the Veil of Night, but Hero is easily cleaning that kill up with a flash lead over the wall.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. Han Solo was able to get a lot of damage down, but he wasn't able to finish any of the enemy champions. And that was something that I brought up, I think around 20 minutes or so, is that we would see him go in and have a lot of damage, but he was never quite able to finish the targets off. So unless someone else on his team was able to finish him off, they were just going to be able to escape with those low health bars. And even though the super minis were pushing the bot lane, they weren't able to get any pressure down on those Nexus turrets, and that's not exactly what you want to have happen, especially when you give up 3 of your members.
Something of a stalemate near the Baron this part too. Works out, I'd say, in favor of New Jersey, given that they really just need to stall the game out a little bit longer. They need that inhibitor to respawn. They need to shore up the weakness that came from a little bit of slower macro play earlier on. And just stalling out a Baron is good enough at this point. They even, to some degree, won that fight. I think they came out 2 for 1, but the kills, provided there wasn't an ace or some serious damage one way or another, weren't that important. It was just a matter of keeping the Baron from going down.
Yeah, that would have been really bad for NJIT if it had gone down, because the gold swing, while it's right now in favor of McMaster, the gold swing would have been pretty hard to overcome at this point in the game.
Still waiting on that bottom lane inhibitor to respawn. I'm sure NJIT are waiting with bated breath as well. And McMaster are looking for a way to crack open this shell and get to the juicy 2-0 victory inside. Not nearly as clean a match as game 1. They did manage with some great macro play earlier on to take that inhibitor turret down, and even the inhibitor in fact, but they haven't been able to find the right answer to what they should do with that moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the real trick, right? If McMaster is able to kind of break open that shell that NJIT has done a really good job of forming around themselves, you know? And I don't know how they're gonna do it because AO's Django is he's not an engaged tank, right? Like Tom Kench was an engaged tank. He could flank, he could pinch. There's a lot of things he could do with him. Gary's not quite as much, and I see your reservations about it now, but here comes a fight, maybe.
Landing on a Han Solo, but it gets cleansed off the lead. Django gonna take a good amount of damage way out. He's not going down the point yet. This scenario going to be landing Han Solo in the back to fight. And Tall White Road brings down Rooster Man. That's one carry out of the picture. Han Solo and AO, it's Django. Dangerously low are going to be able to kite back off the fight. It's a 1-for-0 trade with a lot of cooldowns burned. And McMaster come out bruised, but with a kill for themselves.
Yeah, and this is actually another example of Taroxide not being able to get in the fight on time, and it looks like they're going to take advantage of this and go for the Baron. Very gutsy call with Hero still alive, but he's far enough away where they probably have enough damage to take it down, I think.
Solo is low enough that he's getting roasted by some straight edge or something. They're going for it nonetheless, and they can melt it very quickly. That's McMaster claiming the Baron after a 1-for-0 trade. About as close as it could possibly be, but still enough of a lead for them to snowball a little further.
Yeah, and that's going to be really hard for NJIT because now McMaster has what they need to start pushing in on some of these waves and pushing in on these turrets because having that Baron buff is huge. The Baron empowered minions, melee minions take 4 shots instead of 3 now, and that's an extra 3 shots per wave that a minion wave can endure and give them more time to siege up against a turret, and that's actually very important, especially because they don't have a lot of siege potential with the comp that they have right now.
They've not really got a lot of great ways to take down those turrets unless they can brute force them, and Baron buff is vital in brutally forcing their way through. AO, it's Django flanking around perhaps on the bottom side as the rest of his team goes towards top. The last turret remaining outside of the base. I imagine this is just kind of given over as a matter of course by NJIT.
AO, it's Django actually probably could have gotten, if Velrota did not have the package there, he probably would have been able to get a kill onto Corki, and that would have been very, very bad. So very fortuitous that Velrota had the package there.
Yeah, I imagine we see NJIT back away from this. Oh, they can't back away quickly enough. Show goes down. A bit of a half-hearted attempt at a defense of that outer turret costs the life of the support. That's why it's very, very dangerous to defend outside of your base in that sort of situation. As Django keeps the split push going bottom side, that Rift Herald buff still giving him extra damage against the turret on the first hit.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, here he is, like, he's tanking the turret, and he's still beating down Nautilus, like, come on, son.
And he's got the Baron buff mini dealt him out as well. There's the Rift Herald once again, as Hero looks to chase him away, even if they're successful, which it looks like they are, and pushing him back. They've already lost the Nexus turret, and now they're losing to their top lane. Just as the inhibitor respawn bottom, that's just salt in the wound.
Yeah, I mean, you basically traded which side of the map your minions are going to get. Down for a
Corruption comes down though. Nito falls almost instantly. That's a great start to the potential skirmisher, but Hero leaping to the back lines, not realizing he only had a few hundred health left to work with, loses those few hundreds very, very swiftly. 2-for-1 trade is not the worst thing. When it comes off the back of losing an inhibitor, it doesn't look nearly as peachy keen.
Yeah, and they still have the Baron buff up, and AO's Django is now back, so he's going to be able to take down this turret just fine without any problems.
At the very least, the turret, maybe the inhibitor is left for another day. Move it back away, but there's 1 turret left total on the back for the side of NJIT.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually really rough for them, because now they're going to have pressure falling down on them from all parts of the map. They don't know really where they could decide to push next. Maybe maybe McMaster decides to push in the bot lane. Maybe they decide to push in the mid lane. But it doesn't really matter. because you still have to worry about the top lane super minions. Like that is one of the big reasons that Master was able to take advantage and get that Baron, is because they had to leave, NJIT had to leave Nautilus and the bot lane to try to clear out those minions so they wouldn't push into the Nexus.
Yeah, it's either you lose a part of your base or you lose a part of your team fight, and it's really just not a question that you can answer well. And that is how you take an advantage. McMaster may not have been as clean in their execution in this game as the KDAs certainly would tell you, but they've still had good enough execution, particularly in terms of macro play. Some of the team fights have been much, much more messy, as was the laning phase even, arguably, particularly for Django. But their macro play has been good enough. In the end, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, AO's Django sitting out on the bot lane in his, and he does have his team there. If they decide they want to pinch for a fight, he is going to hold off Nautilus by himself while something else happens in mid lane.
The organization for Han Solo paying off. AO's Django now going to the back line. Chunking down Show, but that's not the turn they want to take. Darius falls. The inhibitor will go. And it's a tradable life for an inhibitor. That's perfectly fine, provided McMaster make their way out of this. I got him right. Oh, there's the actually it's a snare bola onto Mooster Man. Curtain call comes down, and it is the final act for Mooster Man, in fact, as Nito closes the curtain on that kill. There's a snare now onto Turok's side. This is just members of NJIT being picked off one by one. Inhibitors as well falling left and right. You don't really have very many of those to lose. Finally, McMaster will back away, but not after doing some serious damage.
Yeah, I mean, 3 inhibitors down. NJIT is in a very tricky position now. They only managed to get Autumn Clouds and AO's Django during those fights, and that is not a good situation for you at all, considering that they were sitting in the middle of your base and your respawn timers were very short, and you could go back and heal and then get back in the fight, and it still was not happening.
And what's going to put the final nail in this coffin that's already pretty dang well sealed is the fact that we're having an Elder Drake spawn in less than a minute and a Baron spawning in just more than one. Even if McMaster somehow don't manage to find their way onto that last wounded turret that NJIT claim so desperately, there's going to be some very serious objectives for them to take outside of the base.
Yeah, and that's where the tricky part is for NJIT, is like, do you let them have the free Elder Drake, which basically is going to give them the win, or do you try to contest it and hope that your minions can hold off the 6 super minions that are collapsing into your base right now?
I think tricky is an understatement. Tricky is solving a Rubik's Cube puzzle. What we've got here is NJIT need to solve that Rubik's Cube puzzle while they're standing in a bed of fire or something along those lines. Like, it's become impossible more than it's become tricky.
Yeah, I actually really have to agree with you with that right now.
But they're still fighting as Han Solo gets caught out towards the front of that fight. Can't be disabled as he makes his way out of it, though. I'm going to go ahead and base. Really take as much time as they want on the side of McMaster. A lot of advantages to work with here. Taroxide going to be caught out, but he cleanses it off. Taroxide, though, doesn't have a second cleanse there for the suppression, and he falls pretty swiftly. When Tank goes down, he's made of tissue paper. That is not a good sign. Second Nexus turret falls. Last turret remaining falling, in fact. The Nexus itself is now under fire. Tall white bro. Just gonna ult the stuff.
Oh man, that was a handful of a game. We really didn't see it start to get out of control until about 22-23 minutes. Big shout out to McMaster for really kind of coming back from what I would say is a significantly slower early game for them. NJIT definitely put up a much better fight in that second game, though.
Well, McMaster are going to take a 2-0 sweep for themselves. The first game, perhaps a little cleaner than the second, but if you make it, that's all that matters. That's going to be it for us today, though, folks, or at least so far today. We're going to be having another stream later on tonight, so please do tap that follow button, give us a little bit of love, and tune in when my other favorite co-casters, Fekes and Rapid Casting, are going to be bringing you some more action. We're just going to play a few more ads on the way out here, as well as shout out all of our wonderful sponsors before we go. We are, in fact, sponsored by some great organizations, the likes of which are Twitch.tv, who I'm assuming you know of. If you don't, then please do look at your address bar, because that's exactly where you are if you're hearing me talking right now. They've been sponsoring us pretty much our whole journey with C-Star League, and we're happy to have them again for this current season. As well as that, we've got two other sponsors, Asus, proprietors of fine gaming and esports gear, who can get you your mice, your keyboards, your headsets, pretty much anything that you need, you can go ahead and find over there. And band.us, an app that you can check out that allows you to make sort of guilds focused events much easier to organize with your team. If you've got a League of Legends team, if you've got a MMO guild, if you've got really anything that you need to organize with your friends to get some gaming done, go and check out Band. I heartily recommend it myself. Herding my friends beforehand was like trying to herd a pack of cats, and now it's more like herding sheep. I don't know what's easy to herd. Sheep are pretty easy to herd, right? One way or another, Band has certainly made my life easier. Hopefully it can make yours as well. We're going to play a quick commercial break, folks, and then we're going to be done for the night. Thank you all for tuning in.
Only $14.99.
Don't miss the call. Download Band. Communication made easy.